While celebrating his birthday with family, the estate of Bolivian drug lord Alejandro Hernandez gets invaded by 4 men in Drug Enforcement Agency tactical gear. The men turn out to be Russian drug runners working for Hernandez's main competitor Vlad Rodchenko, and they force Hernandez into revealing his massive stash of cocaine in the house. Once found, the Russians proceed to murder Hernandez and his family. Days after the crime, DA Special Agent in charge, James Marks, pays a visit to Keith Miller, a burnt-out agent on personal leave following the brutal murder of his wife Deborah. Miller was investigating Hernandez in an earlier case and learned of not only the massacre of his family but also the possibility of a leak within the DEA, who supplied the Russians the info on Hernandez's stash.
She was only 8 years old when it took her life with the rest of the family. She was 8, man. She was innocent. She had nothing to do with this. If you won't do it for yourself or Hernandez, do it for the one who lost her future.
Miller soon reunites with his partner Jason Stokes, his closest friend since their days as recruits in the agency. Stokes is also a devoted husband to wife Linda and their young son Sean. The 2 agents alongside Marks take part in a joint operation with the FBI led by Agent George Schaffer to go undercover as dope distributors and get into Rodchenko's inner circle. With assistance from fellow agents John Talbot and Danny Knight, Miller and Stokes bust Rodchenko's coke-addicted attorney Chuck Macer. The lawyer discloses information about Rodchenko spiraling into debt, with one of his few assets being the Black Anchor Club. At this point, Miller and Stokes partner up with Samantha Torres, who has gone undercover as the girlfriend of Rodchenko's employee Pavel Sidorov. This creates tension for Miller, as he had previously engaged in an affair with Samantha at the time of his wife's murder. The agents make a scene at the club to get Sidorov's attention.
We have an appointment with Mr. Sidorov.
Mr. Sidorov made no mention of any private meeting tonight, so I suggest you guys be on your way.
Listen, you can boost that tot any day of the week, and it's also ain't got time for us?
Screw you, asshole.
Upon learning of their presence, Rodchenko orders Sidorov to take Miller and Stokes to a routine meeting with some clients to test their loyalty. Sidorov takes Miller and Stokes to a warehouse where they meet with 2 dealers for an exchange. As soon as Miller spots Schaffer closing in, he realizes that it's a setup. Miller attacks the dealers and injures and wounds Schaffer, so he, Stokes, and Sidorov can escape. At Rodchenko's loft, Sidorov informs Rodchenko that they can trust Miller and Stokes. They talk of an arrangement where they can split profits from distribution centers in the Gold Coast. Rodchenko agrees to the offer and invites Miller and Stokes to his summer home for the upcoming weekend, where all the legal papers can be signed. Later that same night, the dealers, who turn out to be undercover federal agents, are beaten and tortured by Sidorov and the Russians. The day comes when Miller and Stokes prepare to leave for Rodchenko's summer home. Before they leave, Miller confronts Marks about using the guilt of Hernandez's dead daughter to lure him back to work.
This, I consider this a half-assed way to bring me back.
I needed you back. But more importantly, you needed to be back.
As Miller and Stokes arrive at Rodchenko's summer home to get uncomfortably settled, Talbot and Knight manage to bust another Rodchenko employee named LC. He spills dirt on the DEA leak already present at the summer home, but gives up no name. He's tossed into the same holding cell where Chuck is, kills him with a shank, and tries to escape. LC hides in the bathroom when he's found by Knight and suddenly wasted for his troubles. Back at the summer home, Sidorov suspects more going on between Miller and Samantha. But the tension is broken when Rodchenko immediately wants to close the big deal. After Miller tests Rodchenko's supply, the tables turn as the Russian boss now makes clear he knows Miller, Stokes, and Samantha are police. Fortunately, a smoke bomb trap inside the briefcase allows the 3 agents to battle their way through the room. But when it appears the coast is clear, Stokes takes a bullet to the chest by Rodchenko. It's soon revealed that Miller supplied information on Hernandez anonymously to the Russians to get revenge for his wife's murder. But instead of accepting Rodchenko's hand, Miller chases him out of the house. As Rodchenko tries to flee the scene, however, a wounded Sidorov takes a rocket launcher from the house and blows Rodchenko sky high. In the aftermath, Stokes fights for his life in the hospital, while Samantha confronts Miller about their troubled emotions. A distraught Miller visits his wife's grave, where he contemplates taking his life and doesn't succeed. Only a faithful meeting with Marks in a church gives Miller the motivation he needs to end the nightmare once and for all by bringing Sidorov to justice.
I see many good men, get seduced by the power, the money, the cars, the girls. They less of themselves, go for the other side. Many of them drowned, but only a few come back to the surface. You, Jason, cream of the crowd, are lead enough to get back to the surface. Now sometimes the winds blow harder, the tides roll faster. That's life. But you don't forget what's important. You don't forget your calling.
Meanwhile, Sidorov partners with the real DEA, leaking Knight to lure Samantha into captivity. Miller gets Talbot to review the interrogation room camera to see Knight handing the shank to LC. The two agents go to confront Knight only for Talbot to get wounded and a scuffle between Miller and the disgraced agent leading to Knight's downfall. Sidorov calls Miller with his whereabouts to get Samantha back. Going alone, Miller squares off with Sidorov for the showdown. Fortunately, Marks arrives to back him up and they manage to take down Sidorov together. Stokes makes a miraculous recovery from his wounds and reunites with his family while Miller finds some sense of closure for this bloody chapter in the story. Five years after busting the Russians, Miller and Stokes, alongside Marks and uptight agent Tuffley, raid an auto body shop where cocaine dealer Bishop Zometa makes a transaction with the Colombians. Amid the raid, Tuffley gets wounded, as does Miller when he has Zometa cornered. Fortunately, Miller's Kevlar vest keeps him alive. 3 months later, Miller is taking mandatory therapy sessions with Dr. Claire Ross. The psychologist tries to dig deep into Miller's troubled past and the demands of his job.
Let me ask you something, Claire. If someone you cared about, someone you loved, was killed violently, the person responsible was caught by either you or the cops, how violently would that person have to die to make you forget about what you lost? Because I got news for you, Claire. There's nothing that makes you forget.
That same evening, Miller goes drinking alone at a gentleman's club. There he meets Brian McClellan, a well-off young man watching the performance of his stripper girlfriend, Sasha. While the two men discuss how Brian plans to head to Mexico in 24 hours to marry Sasha, Brian gets confronted by Mike Annex, a mysterious and intimidating individual who lets him know his father wants to see him. Brian refuses to see or get help from his father, and Annex leaves the club. Then Brian grabs Sasha off stage so they can leave the club in a hurry. Miller is confused by the whole ordeal, but he gets even more confused when he receives a text message from a blocked number saying, "I know you are responsible." Marks and all the agents get called to a hotel crime scene, where they find Brian's girlfriend dead from a suspicious overdose. Miller and Stokes are shocked to learn that Brian is Mark's godson, as his father, Lawrence McClellan, was a fellow Army veteran buddy of Mark's who now runs the Testarossa casino. Marks orders the agents to take Brian to a safe house outside city limits for protection. They reach the safe house only to discover that they were tailed by Zometa's thugs. Though Miller and Stokes manage to take the thugs down, Brian is fatally shot and killed during the ambush. Marks arrives at the scene hours later and loses his cool over the failed assignment. He breaks the bad news to Lawrence and vows to bring the killer to justice. When Marks attends the DOJ hearing, he gets confronted by his ex-wife Adrienne Devitt, who works as the department's internal affairs investigator. Running down his controversial record and breaking department protocol over protecting Brian, Devitt has Marks suspended as the DEA special agent in charge. This leads to an angry Miller returning to the gentleman's club to confront the flamboyant owner Tommy C. for information on who ordered the hit on Brian.
You know what? I'm gonna ask you one more time. Give me a name. I want a motherfucking name.
Okay, all right. Annex. Mike Annex. He's the head of security over at the fucking Testarossa, man. Get this fucking gun out of my face.
Fucking casino?
That's what the fuck I said. Now get this gun out of my goddamn face.
Miller relays the new information to Stokes and his colleagues. But Devitt comes into their office to announce Mark's replacement, Philip Tuffley Sr., the father of the agent wounded in the body shop raid. Holding a grudge against Miller and Stokes, he takes them off the Brian McClellan murder case. However, Miller talks his partner into going undercover as a pair of recruits for casino security. The agents arrange a job interview with Annex, and they impress him with their ability to catch card counters on the casino floor. Though they manage to get hired on the spot, the new assignment creates friction between Stokes and his wife Linda due to his near-fatal experience during the Rodchenko case. Stokes leaves home for a while to spend the next several weeks with Miller working casino security. Meanwhile, Lawrence learns of casino house funds going missing following an important charity event. He pushes Annex to look into it, but since Annex has his hidden operation involving the missing funds, he makes a call to his real accomplice in Zomeda to carry out a contingency plan. Miller continues to get mysterious texts, ruling out all suspects until he confronts Dr. Ross as the culprit. But the tables get turned as Dr. Ross attacks Miller and draws her gun, revealing that she's a special Justice Department investigator assigned to flush out corrupt agents. She tells him about her past as a surveillance agent for Homeland Security and the night she tapped into the call between Miller and Rodchenko when he passed information over, resulting in the Russian assault on Alejandro Hernandez's home. Instead of arresting Miller, however, Ross blackmails him into finding another mole who may have been responsible for Brian's death. Miller meets up with Stokes at the gym to practice sparring. Stokes gets confronted about being away from home, which sets him off, and the partners get too aggressive in sparring. Once they regain their composure, however, Stokes reveals he can't go home while being so close to losing control over the job.
Listen, there's gonna come a time when you need to lose control to save yourself and someone else. But until that happens, you're never gonna understand what I've been through.
But behind Miller's back, Stokes calls up Talbot and his partner Christine to go undercover at the casino for backup. When a physical altercation occurs between Talbot and another card player who flirts with Christine, the incident draws attention away from the VIP room where Annex has snuck Zomeda in to assassinate Lawrence. The plan gets foiled when Stokes spots him over the cameras and stops the potential hit. In the process, Annex shoots Zomeda dead, Miller and Talbot get arrested by local authorities, and Lawrence makes Stokes his personal bodyguard. After Marks comes out of suspension to help Stokes bail Miller and Talbot out of jail, they run down Annex's background as a dishonored Iraq War veteran who became an independent contractor for a mercenary group called the Syndicate and infiltrated the Testarossa casino as their next target. Stokes is told he has to remain inside to protect Lawrence, and he voices his displeasure about it. But Marks knows he'll do the right thing. Annex gets an anonymous tip that Miller, Stokes, and Talbot are DEA. He and his men travel to Talbot's house to take him out. Though unsuccessful, they manage to kill Christine. Tuffley has Miller suspended after candid footage caught him during the casino scuffle, but a colleague passes intel about an abandoned recreation center that's being used for Annex's drug operations. Then two thugs posing as agents attempt to detain Miller, and he beats his way out of captivity. Stokes quickly bonds with Lawrence over their kids until Annex holds them at gunpoint. He's prepared to clear out the casino and take any house money left for his departure. Stokes tells him the money will be easily tracked once he leaves. However, Annex has leveraged Linda and Sean are held hostage inside a vault with only 1 hour of oxygen. Miller returns to the office where he disrupts a meeting between Tuffley and Devitt. He suspects the new boss of working with Annex and punches him out when he gets too testy. Later, Tuffley hears about the rec center raid, but he takes an unexpected bullet from Devitt, who turns out to be the secret mole in the DOJ. Stokes and Lawrence try to evade Annex and his men. Lawrence gets wounded in the back, but he manages to give Stokes the vault combination to free his family. Miller rounds up Talbot and Marks to go to the rec center. Stokes bumps into them, and a shootout between the agents and Annex's men goes down. Stokes has a brutal hand-to-hand battle with Annex where the mild-mannered agent loses control and beats him to a pulp. But when Annex tries to take one last attempt at Stokes' life, Talbot delivers the fatal shot. Using Annex's phone, not only does Stokes free his family, but the agents also learn that Devitt was a department leak working with Annex to keep Marks off their tail. Marks gets reinstated to his post. Miller is in the clear with Dr. Ross, who hands him a flash drive holding incriminating evidence linking him to the Hernandez case.
All I want to know is from here on now, as your partner, you want to spend the rest of your life being a survivor, or do you want to live?
And he's back on solid ground with Stokes as the two partners ride off into the night.